What's up, operators? This is Jet, Desert Fox, and welcome to DesertFox Airsoft Arsenal. This is the show where I talk about the guns I use, the attachments, and how and why I use those attachments. In this episode, I'll be covering my Elite Force 4CRL and 4CRS AEGs. The stock Elite Force 4CRL is an M4 M16 based platform. It has a 16-inch barrel with a 7-inch rail and solid stock. Now, my Elite Force 4CRL has been modified to suit my needs. I've replaced the solid stock with a buffer tube and added a Mad Bull Troy Battle Axe stock. I've also changed the 7-inch rail to an 11-inch VTAC rail. Now you're probably asking yourself, why the changes? Now here's my Elite Force 4CRL with the 11-inch VTAC rail and Mad Bull Troy Battle Axe stock. Now the reason I've switched from a solid stock to a collapsible stock is because I wanted the option to be able to shorten the stock up as opposed to just having a solid stock which would have a fixed length. The reason I've switched from the stock 7-inch rail to the 11-inch VTAC rail is because my arms are pretty long, so I wanted more extension on the gun. Now I still have a lot of rail space on the gun. As you can see, I've got a rail here, on the right side, on the left side, and under the gun as well, along with this really long, nice monolithic rail on the top. Now you'll notice right here that this rail is sticking out a little bit further, and that's mainly just for the camera. Now I do run a lot of reverse cam, and I wanted the camera to be a little bit farther forward than the rail, so that way as it looks back at me, it gets more of my body and the gear that I'm wearing. Now let's cover my Elite Force 4CRS. The 4CRS is another M4 M16 based platform. It comes with an 11-inch barrel, a 7-inch rail, and a crane stock. Internally, both my 4CRL and 4CRS are stock. Both guns are OEM'd by VFC, so to me that says the internals are already high quality. The 4CRL does have one upgrade, which is a 365mm Miracle Barrel. What the Miracle Barrel does is it allows me to increase my maximum effective range without increasing my feet per second. So let's say the field has a hard limit of 400 feet per second. Now what my Miracle Barrel will allow me to do is shoot further than all the other 400 feet per second guns out on the field. Let's talk about some of the attachments that I use with the 4CRL and 4CRS and some of my other guns. As you've seen in a lot of videos, I use a wide variety of gun attachments. Choosing what attachments to use, here's a couple things that I take into consideration. What type of game am I going to? Is it going to be a pickup game? Is it going to be a friendly, just private game? Is it going to be a hardcore milsim game? Is it going to be daytime or is it going to be nighttime? What type of environment am I going to be playing in? Is it going to be a mount urban terrain environment where I can go from outside, maybe indoors, to a dark basement? Or is it going to be outside, out in the woods? Now let's go into some of the specific attachments that I use. First we have the Lancer Tactical AN Peck 16A. Since this is a multifunctional attachment, I like to use this by itself on the 4CRL. With it on the 4CRL, I can switch between a flashlight, laser, and the low light blue light. Next I have two G&P non-functioning Peck 15s. Now these are simply just for looks, one tan, one black. So if I wanted to run a gun with primarily tan attachments, I have a tan Peck 15 to run with maybe a tan vertical grip or other tan furniture on the gun. And if I wanted to go solid black, I have the solid black Peck 15. Now the reason I have these attachments are just primarily aesthetics. As we all know, 90% of airsoft is looks, and having cool looking Peck 15s on your gun just add to that cool factor. Alright, now let's talk about flashlights or weapon lights. One of the weapon lights that I use is a TLR1 Streamlight. This is primarily used on my Elite Force handgun. Now I do run this on my Elite Force 4CRL from time to time, and I mount it on the top of the rail. And the way I engage the flashlight, with it being on the top of the rail, is I wrap my hand around the VTAC rail and then use my thumb to push down and engage the light. Just like so. Optics. Now I primarily use aim-point replica type optics. Here we have the Lancer Tactical red-green dot aim-point and a G&P red dot aim-point. These are both replica aim-points, these are not real aim-points. And the mounts that I use are replica Wilcox mounts. Now the reason I like these replica Wilcox mounts is that they sit a little bit higher than a 30mm offset, which is great when using different kind of face protection like a paintball mask or an iron face and a mesh mask. It brings it just a little bit higher so that way you can get that good cheek weld even though you've got a bulky mask in the way. And lastly, my mock suppressor. Now this suppressor does have noise muffling capability. Now I use this suppressor primarily in urban terrain settings as to be able to hide my location when firing at enemies. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of DesertFox Airsoft Arsenal. If you guys need more information about any of the guns and attachments that I talked about, I'll put the links in the description below for all those products. As always, this is Jet, DesertFox, and I'll see you on the field.
Got him.
Oh, yes, sir.